Class is in session, and this is your host Luis, and today we're going to take a look at Majin Buu, leader of the Agents of Destruction. Thank you guys again for joining us. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time in this video. We're just going to go over the deck profile a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of strategies, but I'm going to leave a link down below for you guys to take a look at our Patreon, where I'm going to talk specifically about other strategies you can implement. I'm going to talk a little bit about my sideboard, and we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses that the AOD deck has specifically. So if this is a deck that you actually have troubles with, maybe in tournaments or anything like that, you'll be able to take a look at that. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. The leader on his front side is Bojack, leader of the Agents of Destruction. He has the same permanent on the front and the back, and the permanent is treat Agent of Destruction cards in your hand as if they had no specified cost. This is going to include your battle cards and your extra cards, but it's not going to include your unisons, unfortunately. When this card attacks, his auto, add up to one card from your life to your hand, then look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to one card with Agent of Destruction and its card name to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Really good. Self-Awaken is invaluable. It gets specific decks and stuff like that. But you also don't have to Self-Awaken if you're getting out aggroed or anything like that. His Awaken is really balanced out. When your life is at 4 or less, you may draw one card, switch up to one of your energy to active mode, flip this boy over. His backside does not have any draw power, unfortunately, and he goes from Bojack to Majin Buu, leader of the Agents of Destruction. Permanent, exact same thing. He has 2 activate mains. They are once per turn, but you can activate them both in the same turn. Once per turn, choose one Agent of Destruction card with an energy cost of 2 or less in your hand, and then play it. It's going to be the majority of all your battle cards. Activate main once per turn. You tap 3 energies, and then choose one Unison card with Agent of Destruction in its card name in your hand, and play it with 3 markers on it. And you're going to have 2 different targets, but you're typically only going to activate that on one. We're going to go ahead and move on very quickly into the core of the deck. And the first card we're going to be playing is called Bojack, Overseer of Destruction. And we're going to be playing 4 of those. This is a 1-drop blue card. Really good, I think, personally, because without this card, the deck wouldn't be as good. He's got barrier, so he's kind of tough to get off the field, and it's really helpful, so most of the time he's going to be safe. 2 permanents that are very good. You can only play 1 Bojack, Overseer of Destruction. Fortunately, you can't have 2, and play in your battle area. And then you treat Agent of Destruction cards in your hand as if they had no specified cost. So the cards in your hand that have Agent of Destruction in the card name no longer have a specified color that you have to pay in order for you to play the card. So if the card is originally yellow, it's now technically black in your hand. If it's green, it's technically black in your hand. Second permanent, which makes the deck so much better, reduce the energy cost of all Agent of Destruction cards in your hand by 1. This card pairs very well with the next card I'm about to show y'all, which is Agent of Destruction Strikes Back. This card is a yellow 1-drop, and you play 4 of them. You want to have 2 blue energies by turn 2, and if you make it to turn 3, you want to charge a yellow energy, and that's the reason why I run 3. If Agent of Destruction Strikes Back is permanent, is that this card gains Agent of Destruction in all areas: hand, drop, deck, warp, everywhere. Life. Activate main. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add up to 2 cards with Agent of Destruction and their card names from among them to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order, but then you can't activate copies of this card for the rest of the turn. If you added a card to your hand, only 1, you can add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. It's really good because if you pair this up with your Bojack, you can play this card for free, and then potentially you can have 3 extra cards in your hand after you activate this card. We're going to move on to the battle cards, and the first one, and I think this is the most important card in the deck, is going to be Turles Chaos, Agent of Destruction. He also has barrier, like the 1-drop Bojack, but he also has unique, so you can't have multiple of him on the board. His auto, which makes him really good, is that when this card attacks, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, Add up to one card with Agent of Destruction in its card name from among them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So this guy is your draw engine. If you're playing against somebody who knows what to do against AOD, they're going to try to remove him off the board. You got a couple options. You can protect him with combo power. You can just do your best to keep him on board so that your opponent can continue to attack him and just ignores your life. But you'd also have the option to let him die, because you have ways to put him back into your deck and stuff like that, or put him back into your hand and then play him for 1 energy. Or you can play him off your first negate that I'm going to show you guys today. This is Garlic Jr. Immortal Agent of Destruction. Counter attack, negate the attack, play this card. When this card is played, play up to 1 Agent of Destruction card with an energy cost of 2 other than copies of this card from your deck with the skills negated for the turn, and then shuffle your deck. So typically you'll end up playing this card right here if your opponent can get rid of it. You can also play the counterplay that I'm about to show you. Very quickly, this is Android 13 Exterminating Agent of Destruction. This is your counterplay. If your leader card has Agent of Destruction in its card name, which it does, if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 3 or less, it is placed in its owner's drop area instead of being played. Then play this card. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. All of that happens technically before he's played. So as long as you activate this in the counter step, your opponent has to pitch a card. Also, the card they're playing isn't played. So you could count it as a -2. Really, really helpful. Auto, when this card is played, shuffle up to a total of 2 evil wizard cards and or cards with Agent of Destruction in their card names from your drop area into the deck. Unison, battle cards, extra cards, anything. Really helpful just in case the game gets long and you don't want to deck out. The other card you can play with Garlic is your Lord Slug, Mighty Agent of Destruction. Super combo, which kind of sucks. I wish he wasn't a super combo. I wish you had another option as a super combo, because when you combo with this guy, you don't actually get to draw. So you actually end up playing him most of the time. Personally, I play him because when your opponent activates a counterplay skill, they choose 2 cards from their hand and discard them. We play a 2-2 split because you want that late game draw. Once your leader's on his front side, he can't draw anymore. So we just use a generic super combo that if your leader is black and your life is at 4 or less, when you combo with this card, draw a card. You're going to bring yourself down to 4 life or less so that you can activate your front side's ability. Really, really helpful. Now, we're going to move on to the 3 drops that we play in the deck. First and foremost, we're going to be taking a look at Hatchiac. This guy's really, really important because you want to see either Hatch or Bobbity in your hand first turn. For 1 energy, you pitch Hatchiac and then you play Bobbity from the deck. Really, really helpful. But you can only play Bobbity cards with an energy cost of 1. So it doesn't have to be this one. If you have a way to play another one, then by all means. Some people also use this guy in the green Vegeta deck. When this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less, send it to the owner's warp, then place up to 3 battle cards from your opponent's drop area at the bottom of their deck in any order. I really want to reiterate this over and over and over again. Play this card, play this card, play this card. He is not just here so that you can play Bobbity. That is not his only role, okay? That's not all he does. He gets rid of cards in your opponent's drop area that are very useful to him. Even if it is early game and your opponent wants to activate a sparking ability, you can stop them by putting 3 cards from their drop area back into the bottom of their deck. If they have an Ape in the drop area, you get rid of it. If they have Ribrianne in the drop area, you get rid of it. That's why you have this card. He's not just to play Bobbity. Bobbity can be played for 1 blue energy. We're gonna move on. A little bit of field removal and draw engine here. We got Broly, Invincible Agent of Destruction. We're going to be playing 4 of him. Activate main for 1 energy. You discard this card from your hand. Add 1 card with Agent of Destruction and his card name from your drop area to your hand. That's basically any AOD in the deck. Includes your Unisons. His auto. When this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 5 or less and then KO it. Then look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck. Add 1 card from among them to your hand, then place the remaining cards into the bottom of the deck. I think, personally, that you use this guy just to get things off your opponent's field. You want to get as much value as you possibly can off of every single card that you play. And then you also want to look at the top 3 and add a card that you can't add with the Turles swing. A lot of the times what will happen is maybe you have a Senzu Bean or a Negate in those top 3, and the other 2 cards are Agent of Destruction cards that, sure, you do want in your hand, but you won't be able to draw the Senzu Bean or the Negate or something else that's not necessarily an AOD. So what you can do is you play this guy, look at the top 3, add whatever card you want to your hand, maybe your secret, anything. You don't have to reveal it to your opponent. And then the other 2 cards, if they're AOD, just go ahead and pitch them. Because Android 13 can put them back into your deck, shuffle your deck, and then you can draw those things later with your Turles swing. I think this is a phenomenal card, one of the best cards in the deck. Next thing we're going to play is 2 Bojack Agents of Destruction. And we're going to be playing 2 Android 13 Agent of Destruction. So earlier I mentioned that yellow is going to be critical for turn 3 charge, and that's why I chose Bojack over the Lord Slug Agent of Destruction. I think depending on your matchup, Lord Slug might be better and you can swap them in and out, but this card also is really helpful. Bojack is really helpful if you are playing against a deck that is leader led. This to me personally means that if your opponent has a deck where their leader is the most important card in their deck, then that card right here is going to come in handy. A lot of the times you might be playing against Soul Striker or something like that. Red Broly swings, has critical, or swings, restand 2 energies, draw a card. You could stop your opponent from drawing a card even if their leader just swings and draws a card. If you have this guy in rest mode, you tap 2 energies. Choose your opponent's leader card, switch it to rest mode, and it can't be switched to active mode until the end of your opponent's next turn. You can also use him to, when you play him, you switch your opponent's blockers to rest mode or anything like that. Finally, Android 13 Agent of Destruction. I think he's one of the MVPs of the deck. He makes the deck so much better than it should be. And he has critical, so resource denial, and activate main. Tap 2 energies. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and KO them. Then your opponent chooses cards from their hand and places them in the drop area. And you can do that multiple times per turn. It is not once per turn. Clearly does not say once per turn. And I think that's what makes him really good. And with Senzu Bean or maybe other cards on the deck, you actually can get to continue to do that over and over again. And that's why your leader is really well paired with the Bobbity, because all your 3 drops can be played from your hand for free as long as Bobbity is on board and you use your leader's ability. Finally, I'm going to pick these up right here, and we're going to take a look at the 2 unisons that we're going to be playing. We're only going to be playing 2 Vegeta Resolute Agent of Destruction. I think he's one of the better boss monsters of the game, so even if you're playing mono green deck, he's really good. He has double strike and critical inherently, and he's already at 20k base. Auto, choose 1 card from your hand and discard it. When this card is played, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignore barrier, and KO them. Invaluable, amazing, wonderful. The only thing that it can't get around is obviously indestructible, and we're still trying to figure out how to get rid of that. If you're not playing red, you're going to struggle by getting rid of indestructible, but this is a good way to clear your opponent's board, especially when they work really hard to build it. He has a +1. This card gains 5k power for the turn. It's going to force your opponent to use negates on him instead of other swings or anything like that. Also, his -5 activate main. If your leader card is an evil wizard, which it is, or all of your energy is mono green, choose 3 cards in your opponent's hand and discard them. Really good. The deck does a little bit of everything, which is something that I really appreciate. Very toolboxy, I could say. The final unison that you're going to be playing, you're going to be playing 4 of these, is Janemba Wicked Agent of Destruction. His ±0, activate main. You and your opponent draw 1 card, then your opponent places the top card of their deck in their drop area. You may not be using that very often, unless your opponent is getting low or something like that, or you really need an extra card in your hand. His +1 is this card gains critical for the duration of the turn. His -2, which you won't be using very often unless you go late game. If your opponent has 15 or less cards in their deck, this card gets 15k power and triple strike for the turn. He's a really good generic blue leader because he's not, unison, because he's not locked to a leader. and he just pairs well with AOD in general. You can actually play him off your leader's ability, tapping 3, play him on board with 3 energies. And he's really, I just think he's really, really good because you pair him with this counterplay that you'll have in your hand. In Yu-Gi-Oh, we call these things hand traps. SS Trunks God Sealing Technique, one of the new counterplays that just came out, and I really, really appreciate it, or came out at the beginning of the set. You cannot activate counterplay skills of other cards for the turn once you activate this guy. You may discard this card from your hand. If you do, the battle card being played is returned to the owner's hand instead. If you don't, play this card. It's really, really nice because it's permanent. Is if you have a blue unison card with 2 or more markers in play, you can activate this card's counter skills from your hand without paying its energy cost. So more times than not, you're going to have Janemba on board before and even after you have Vegeta, Resolute Agent of Destructions. There may be games where you don't even play Vegeta, and you'll have Janemba on board most of the time, and you'll just be racking up those counters so that you can continue to activate God Sealing Trunks once per turn. Typically what you want to end up doing is, because your opponent's going to try to bait it out, you activate this guy first. You activate Android 13 first, so that you still have the ability to activate Trunks. The moment you activate Trunks, this guy will not be able to be activated, and that's a bit of a downside. Finally, we're going to be taking a look at the extra cards and the secret that we run in this deck. I keep saying Senzu Bean a lot over and over again, but it's because you do. You run 4 Senzu Beans to extend plays because you want to have at least 2 blue energy in the deck so that you can play Janemba turn 2 if necessary. Senzu Bean, generic, staple. Choose one of your opponent's cards. Well, choose one of your cards. It gains 5k power for the turn. Then choose up to 2 of your energy and switch them back to active mode. Really, really good. One of my favorite cards in the whole game. And we're going to use a Sparking Negate. So we'll have a total of 8 negates. I'm a very defensive player. This is why I play so many negates. Power Burst. The way that I play this deck is crazy aggressive, so I will find myself in a lot of times where I actually don't have any energy left because I did everything I possibly could in my turn. And depending who you're playing against, that's not necessarily always a good idea. But Power Burst helps you in these situations. If you're not trying to take to a 4th life, or if your opponent didn't swing as much or anything like that, after turn 4 or 5, Power Burst is going to come in handy because you'll have all sorts of things in the drop area, and you can just negate skills. You can negate the attack without paying any energy, and then you can add up to 1 black battle card from your drop area or warp with an energy cost of 1 added to your hand. That kind of sucks a little bit because you don't actually do that in this deck, hardly any, but hopefully they'll come out with a 1-drop black AOD or something like that in the future that you could probably pair with Power Burst. Finally, we're gonna end this. We're gonna end the deck profile with Shenron Negative Energy Incarnate, which is why I kept saying earlier that turn 3 you want to have some sort of yellow energy on board or in your energies so that you can play this guy. He has Ultimate, Deflect, and Blocker, and his permanent is you reduce the energy costs of this card in your hand by 1 for each card in your drop area with an energy cost of 1. This card can't be removed from your battle area by your opponent's skill. So hopefully turn 3, 4, you have 16 cards in your deck with an energy cost of 1, and that'll make him, you can play him for 1 yellow energy, which I think is really, really good. I struggled a little bit to find an ultimate that you could play in this deck. There are a couple that you can play, but they don't come out until turn 5 or turn 6. And with the way that this deck is geared to swing a lot and attack a lot and end your opponent by turn 3 or 4, a lot of times you're not even going to get a chance to play them. Well, I will say that since the deck is so good at drawing Agents of Destruction, you will struggle to find this gentleman right here. But he is very defensive, which is something that this deck lacks if you swing as much as I do with it. His auto is that when you activate this card's blocker skill, switch it back to active mode, and it gets minus 5k power for the turn. So if your opponent likes to swing with a bunch of 1-drop weenies that gain 5k or whatever, you can just keep blocking all those attacks, and none of those attacks will ever go through. Again, I really appreciate you guys. I hope I didn't take too long on this. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments, any remarks, anything you might want to add or take out, definitely put that down in the comment section below. We appreciate you guys. I'll be praying for y'all. Take care. Bye.